In the heart of England and at the heart of English history lies Sherwood Forest, timeless in its beauty. Beside it flows the River Trent, the ancient waterway which divides the south of England from the north. This is the home of Robin Hood. The River Trent has been a highway for centuries, as well as a source of food for the people on its banks. Now it's used more for leisure than for commerce, but at one time it was the gateway to the north of England from the sea. The closest point to the sea at which the river could be forded was here at Newark. The Normans built Newark Castle to guard the strategic crossing. Today the town stands at the meeting place of the Trent, the Roman Fosseway and the Great North Road. The castle's work is over, but it serves as a reminder of why the town stands where it does. The Normans left their mark on the Newark and Sherwood district in the form of churches as well as Newark Castle. Indirectly, they also gave England a great traditional story, one which is known all over the world. Without the Normans, who would Robin Hood have had to fight? There is some doubt as to who Robin Hood was, but his legend lives on, as does his home of Sherwood, where the forest still remains. The district of Newark and Sherwood lies in the centre of the Shire country of England, an hour from London by rail. It is also served by East Midlands International Airport and the A1, the old Great North Road. Newark was at the centre of the English Civil War. The war began in nearby Nottingham in 1642 and ended 4 years later when the king surrendered at Southwell in Newark and Sherwood district. The historic Newark Museum displays relics of this period. 3.5 centuries on, all is peace in the busy market town of Newark. Though busy might not seem quite the right word when you're strolling along beside the river or cruising along past the historic riverside warehouses, many of which now have a new lease of life as active commercial premises. Newark Castle is the venue of popular band concerts during the summer. Shopping in a medieval town is a pleasure for residents and visitors alike. Newark is a very ancient town. The charter dates back to 1549. And the town has been in the middle of historic events ever since. Wandering round its narrow streets, one can gather a sense of history along with the shopping. The marketplace is one of the largest cobble squares in England, and a great place to discover bargains, or just to watch the people, busy here as they have been for 400 years. Dominating the bustling scene is the town hall, built in 1774. It houses the civic plate, with maces and other regalia which symbolize the town's long and prosperous past. Newark is so full of history that it's no surprise to find that some of it is for sale. This is one of the most celebrated areas of England for antique hunting. There's furniture and china from gracious town houses, and more rural pieces from the villages round about. Wherever you look, treasures abound. The regular international antique fairs are a special feature. Whatever you're looking for, whether you knew you needed it or not, you'll find it here. You could start a band or a cricket team, or just find a place to hang your hat. Even if you're not interested in antiques, Newark is an excellent centre from which to explore the history and beauties of the area. The Saracen's Head at Southwell is where King Charles I surrendered at the end of the Civil War. It was an inn on the coach road then, as it is to this day. The facilities may have been brought up to date, but the hospitality hasn't changed. There's a four-poster bed in the King Charles suite. Not far away, the Bramley Apple Pub commemorates another of Southwell's claims to fame. This was where the famous cooking apple was first bred. But the main attraction of the town is the Minster, often called the Mother Church of Nottinghamshire. It was built in the early 12th century and enlarged 100 years later. The magnificent rood screen is 14th century, a wonderful example of medieval craftsmanship. The octagonal chapter house from the late 13th century is unique, from its single-span vaulted ceiling to the naturalistic carvings which decorate the walls. Southwell Minster was the parish church well known to Lord Byron. On his frequent visits here during his vacations from Harrow and Cambridge, he lived at Burgage Manor, the house his mother rented. It was friends in Southwell who first encouraged him to publish his poems. Byron enjoyed the local hostelries, and one of their customers even provided the poet with the inspiration to write an epitaph for an enthusiastic beer drinker. John Adam was here of the parish of Southwell, a carrier who carried his can to his mouth well. He carried so much, and he carried so fast, he could carry no more, so was carried at last. There are all kinds of churches. Harby Church was built to replace the original chapel and commemorates the death of Queen Eleanor in the village in 1290. Thorney Church was built in the mid-19th century in a decorated Norman style, complete with gargoyles and other elaborate stone carvings. The ornate west front is a triumph of the stone-cutter's art. The church at Cornton nearby became famous because its rector from 1850 to 1887 was Samuel Hole, founder of the National Rose Show. Roses are grown commercially in the area, along with the more standard crops of the English countryside. This is a rural district after all, a fact which is underlined at the time of the great country festivals, like May Day, when the Morris men celebrate the final arrival of spring. Morris dancing may look today like the eccentric hobby of men in white clothes and beards, but it is firmly based in these sturdy rural villages, a combination of celebration and fertility rite. At Wellow, they celebrate the coming of spring in another, quieter way, with the crowning of the May Queen and dancing round the maypole. It's more decorous, no doubt, but it's just as symbolic as the Morris dance. Fertility and the countryman's perennial quest for good crops and sturdy stock are the real meaning of the maypole. In this green and pleasant countryside, there is a unique village, the last of its kind in England. It's Laxton, where the medieval system of open field farming is still carried on as it was in the days when the maypole was a vital annual rite, rather than a local musical occasion. The visitor centre explains to the 20th century the farming methods of the 10th. Each of the three great fields is ploughed in strips on a strict rotation by the local farmers, and their work is checked every year by the court leet, exactly as it has been for over 1,000 years. In the Dovecote Inn, farmers exchange notes on the season, as they've done since plough first touched soil before William the Conqueror was born. At the Heritage Museum, visitors can admire the implements used down the centuries in this ancient farming community. Some of them have hardly changed. Others look very mysterious to modern eyes. Farming is not all work, though a ploughing match looks suspiciously like it, especially when it is done by hand, with a horse-drawn plough. The competitors are judged on the straightness of their furrows, and the evenness with which the soil is turned over. The pride of the rural community is expressed in these agricultural competitions. The shows are an annual celebration of the skills of breeding and husbandry which have supported the community down the centuries. Sheepdog trials are a national sport, keenly followed here in the heart of England. Show jumping has grown to Olympic status. But so far, no one has tried to make steam threshing into an international sport. An interesting bygone activity. And that's what makes it so fascinating to nearly all the visitors. There is a fascination to all antiquated machines. Newark and Sherwood has displays of vintage aeroplanes at the Newark Air Museum. Elegant motor cars, large and small, evoke a more gracious period of motoring, when speed was not of the essence. Dumpy country buses bring out the nostalgia in all of us, as do the shining examples of vintage motorcycles. There are other ways of celebrating the summer at Rufford Country Park, in the grounds of Rufford Abbey. The sword dance goes back nearly as far as the Morris, its figures based down the generations, timeless in their interest to young and old alike. The park itself, with its formal gardens and some imaginative statuary, is open all the year round from dawn to dusk. The Abbey stands guard over the scene, as it has since the 12th century, in its various forms. Hospitality is still provided as it was then for all comers. Rufford Park is the ideal place for contemplative walks through the woods or strolls round the lake to admire the waterfowl. It is simply not possible to visit Newark and Sherwood without coming across Robin Hood and his merry men. Will Scarlet lies buried at Lidworth Church, and at Edwinstowe, Robin Hood was married to Maid Marian, the culmination of one of the great love stories of English history. And as you might expect, Sherwood Forest is full of him, and his merry men too. Here you can really boast that you have trod in the footsteps of a legend.
Sing you a song of Robin Hood with all his merry band. Robin Hood, Robin Hood.
The spectator sports which entertained our ancestors are lovingly recreated here, under the living trees which sheltered Robin and his men. It was a man's life then, but today it's an occasion for all the family. Below the statue of Robin and Little John fighting on the Bridge of Legend, we can all live out the dreams of childhood. All the films, all the games and the tall stories come to life among the trees on the very grass that Robin knew. The major oak knew him. It was the centre of his greenwood domain, and it still dominates the scene today. It casts its spell over all who step into the greenwood, giving them a taste of life as it was lived and could be again. Sherwood is a great place for walking, or strolling, or playing, or just enjoying the idea of being in the middle of English history. Eating outdoors has an even greater charm here. You can always pretend that the sandwich is one of Robin's forest feasts. There are places to camp under the greenwood tree, just like Robin and his men. If you're more energetic, there's a cycle track provided by the Forestry Commission. At Centre Park's Sherwood Forest Holiday Village, where people can book their own self-catering holiday. There is an abundance of sporting facilities, including some that Robin never dreamed of. In the evening, there's the theatre. It plays an important part in the life of Newark and Sherwood. There's the Robin Hood at Aram and the Palace at Newark, where the lights are just coming up on the Glenn Miller Orchestra. Robin was a great sportsman and would certainly have enjoyed a day at Southwell races. Here the visitor can enjoy the atmosphere, the colour, the sounds, and mingle cheerfully, hoping that your horse is successful. Studying the form may be one way of trying to take from the rich and give to the poor. Whatever your sport, the facilities for pursuing it in Newark and Sherwood are there for all to enjoy. A summer's afternoon on the banks of the River Trent, an ice cream and a fishing rod. What more could anyone ask? The district is particularly proud of the quality of the walks in its lovely countryside and along the River Trent in all its variety. And at the end of the walk, at one of the farm tea shops beside the way, there's a chance of a pot of tea, well earned and much appreciated. There are 2 farm parks in the district, an interesting modern farm centre at Farnsfield, and the rare breeds collection here in Sherwood Forest. Some of the creatures would be more at home at the other end of the world, while others are familiar European friends. Some of them are more familiar than others. It depends how big you are. The sheer range of experience in this lovely district has to be seen to be believed. Another aspect of Newark and Sherwood, which should not be missed, is the emphasis on crafts. The passion and dedication of these artists is inspiring, and their products satisfying in the deepest way. The articles which emerge from these workshops may well find their way one day into the antique shops and markets as works of art in their own right. The lasting beauty of stained glass will survive to become one of the heirlooms of tomorrow. The heirlooms of yesterday are still there to be admired, of course, in places like the Millgate Folk Museum in Newark. It covers the social and industrial life of the area from the turn of the century until the Second World War. The dolls of yesteryear are represented here, but their main meeting place is in the Vinear Cook Doll Museum at Cromwell. There, the dolls of today rub shoulders with their ancestors down the centuries. The dolls on display cover 2 centuries, from 1750 to 1950. You could even have a doll made to order, in case there is someone you would like to have immortalized in this particular way. A favorite film star, perhaps. People come from all over the world to visit Newark and Sherwood. Why not discover this delightful rural district for yourself, in the heart of the English Shires, the home of Robin Hood?